Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Om Jnanati Brandasya Chinanjala Shlakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskacharya Desatarani. We are praying to Srila Prabhupada and previous acharyas and our spiritual master to bless us so that we conduct this course as successful as possible. So we have 3 lessons. They are on the screen. That I get a message. Damodar Prasad and myself are still on the road, but we will soon be at the temple and also be able to turn on the camera. Good news. Okay, so I have the overview here on the screen of the 3 lessons we will go through. We will start with the course overviews and to explain what we want to achieve with this course. That tomorrow we will go over the Bhakti Shastri materials, and the last day we will go into assessments and discuss your course assignment. That so let's start with trying to understand the aims first of this course, and then the aims of the Bhakti Shastri. That so I will be sharing a lot of documents. So the first document I will share with you is your student has handbook, which you have found in the materials. So first, this is a different overview of the course. It's similar, all the aspects are there, but I will explain. These are the purposes of this course, to familiarize students with the aims of Bhakti Shastri. We will discuss these aims today. 12 aims or even more. And these aims are based on research done by many devotees in the early 90s. They came together also in Oxford to discuss the organization and the materials for the Bhakti Shastri. And they scanned Srila Prabhupada's books and came up with these aims based on Prabhupada's teachings. We will look at them today to help students appreciate the importance of the Bhakti Shastri program for ISKCON. Of course, I think the leadership, especially in Europe, has realized that one of the qualities of a Brahmin is that he's learned in the scriptures for Brahmin initiation. That has been recommended, but in general, Bhakti Shastri gives us the basis of what we are doing in our spiritual life. Very important. 3, to familiarize students with an overview of the current Bhakti Shastri materials. That we will do tomorrow. We will see so many materials But yes, these materials are helpful, and I will share them with you. That they are helpful. Moment, yeah. But that does not mean that you cannot make your own materials. That's another thing. But these are very good materials, very structured. On the base of this material, you have your lesson plans prepared. All the references are there for each verse you have to speak. It will be easy to conduct Bhakti Shastri based on these materials and to make a quality presentation. And then to help students write effective lesson plans based on objectives. I must say this is not really the aim of this course, because students of this course must have teaching experience or must have done TTC 1 or TTC 2, one of both. So it's not the purpose of this course to teach you, to teach you how to facilitate lessons and so on and prepare lesson plans. You are supposed to know this by this course. This is not the purpose of this course. So we will show you lesson plans and objectives and so on. Examples of it apply to the Bhakti Shastri course. That we will do. So to help students acquire skills of implicitly delivering aims. Yes, no. That's also something what's more in the field of the TTC courses. You must know these things already when you come to this course. 6 to help students appreciate the importance of establishing an appropriate ethos in teaching. Yes. We will speak also about this ethos, but that there must be standards. We will discuss the standards of the Bhakti Shastri and how to apply these standards and and the responsibility of learning for the students. That are all important aspects we will see later. To equip students with basic skills of effective assessment of Bhakti Shastri. Yes, that we will see Wednesday. To provide students with a network of support for Bhakti Shastri teaching programs. The support is more that we give you all the materials and the insight how to conduct the course. So this going straight to the assessment. On Wednesday, I will explain you what your assessment is. You will have to give a lesson and record it. You will get examples that we will look at recordings of other students who did this course in the past, so that you have a good idea what's expected. I will evaluate your presentation and I will explain further how I will assess that. But you will get a mark from me. And here you see all the grades. To teach Bhakti Shastri, you should have the TTC follow the TTC2 at least. TTC2 and all have a good experience or have an experience in teaching for many years. So most students, they get a B grade, B minus, B, B plus, and that A, that's very rare that happens. Expressional expert. No. And C, mostly that doesn't happen because all of you have teaching experience. So yes, to teach the Bhakti Shastri, you must have a Bhakti Shastri certificate yourself. That's the first thing. And then a teaching training course 2 certificate, or having teaching experience. And then 3, you need the certificate of this course, and you need to adhere to the standards, minimum standards of spiritual life. So this aims, there are different aims in Bhakti Shastri. But I will now go to another, because this is the Bhakti Shastri student handbook. This is the Bhakti Shastri students handbook, and there, this Bhakti Shastri objectives, they are explained very nicely here. That so you can all read this, but here you have all these quotes of Prabhupada. Prabhupada's quotes of each of these aims that there is just a selection. There are much more. And these quotes are the basis for these aims. Or these quotes represents Prabhupada's will for study of the Bhakti Shastri. Now there are 12 aims. So they are mentioned here, but first, what do they mean? The knowledge, skills, values, and attitude. These are 3 levels. Knowledge, understanding, but then one has to bring that knowledge and the understanding into practice in one's life. One must realize how to practice it. And then personal application, preaching application, theological application, and more kinds of application. That, and if we apply this knowledge, then our character must change, our inner mood. That and that's called this change of hearts we find in values and attitudes. That so there are these 3 levels. That first, knowledge and understanding, that leads to application, and that leads to values. That here it's more deeply explained what's explained what's meant here, knowledge. How can we personally apply it? By remembering slokas for personal use, especially in times of crisis, decision, celibacy, understanding of celibacy is essential. And for preaching, that you must remember slokas and references from Prabhupada's teachings for speaking it. That's preaching application. And theological, there are some theological points which speak about abortion and explain our theological view on it based on the Shastra. So understanding. Understanding means questioning our own perception and understanding of the truth in preference to questioning the validity of Shastra itself. That we don't do. We try to understand how the Shastra are true, that to our own perception and understanding. That then for preaching, understanding, the ability to respond thoughtfully to discerning people. So it's not just reciting slokas, it's also explaining the practical understanding of these slokas. That realization, what does it mean? The ability to see Krishna and factually realize all the imports of Vedic knowledge. That Shastra Shaks are seeing to the scriptures. And then the ability to present Krishna consciousness just suitable to the audience, speaking from experience and the heart. That's not an easy thing. That sannyasi, we are traveling, preaching, and every time it's a challenge. That to preach according to the audience, but it's always mixed. And then that's knowledge, but this knowledge must lead to values. First is Muda mission. Understanding what's the purpose of this movement and how it's situated in the broader tradition. That in preaching, that means that one can constructively address internal theological issues applied. And what is our mission in this regard? How does it connect with Srila Prabhupada's mission? Then you have academic and moral integrity. Personal honesty required as basis of Brahminical qualities. Real knowledge requires purity, honest self-examination. So you must apply what you are teaching. That you must be of good conduct to present Shastra. We must be a devotee in good standing. And how do we preach that? The honest application of scripture, avoiding self-motivation. No self-motivation and distortion. It's not easy. Society. And then authority. Promoting the appropriate attitude towards authority, avoiding both a challenging attitude and a blind acceptance. So this is a balance here, that accepting authority, but questioning and trying to understand how these teachings from this authority are true, not blind accepting, wanting to understand it more deeply. That because what's the importance to preach about that? Well, if, if you that if, if your attitude to the authorities are right, and you are following in their footsteps, that will yeah, help to expand or develop our Krishna consciousness and the Krishna consciousness of others. An evaluation. Now, we have in our life so many choices. We must make choices every day that in our personal life, that every day we have choices to make. Should I do this? Should I do that? That we see in Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, at the end, that Krishna and Arjuna are following Ashvatam. And then they bind Ashvatam, they catch him, Krishna and Arjuna. And Krishna says, kill him. And then Draupadi says, no, it's your goal. And it's a Brahman, you cannot kill a Brahman. And Yudhishthira said, yes, we cannot do that. That's according to the religious principle. And Bhima says, no, kill him. He killed the 5 sons of Draupadi and the Pandavas. Arjuna said to Krishna, Krishna said to Arjuna, now you must satisfy both, Bhima and Draupadi and Yudhishthira. But yeah, he found a solution. Krishna gave him the right inspiration to do the right thing. Difficult choices. But that's the application of this transcendental knowledge. And if you are good in applying this yourself, and you see the results in your life, you can counsel others how to do. That evaluation is very important for counselors. Then there is responsibility for learning. So if one is responsible for learning and every day studies Prabhupada's books at a steady pace, then one will develop a taste for study. And so you can, by that, if you inspire others to become responsible for their learning, they will develop dominical qualities, good qualities, and become good preachers. And then the last value is faith and conviction, essential for addressing our inner life. Because the importance of faith is stressed even in Bhagavad Gita many times, at the end of the 4th chapter. One was faith in this transcendental knowledge, and he study that for him, spiritual advancement is possible. But one who is not faithful in this transcendental knowledge, there's no happiness in this life, in the next. What Krishna says. So these are important aspects. Teaching is not just conveying knowledge, but explaining how to apply this knowledge in our lives and develop these values. Yes, so it's a process of internalization. It's not just theoretical knowledge. You have to go inside, and it has to cause this study of Bhakti Shastri. The purpose is to churn in people's hearts and change their desires. Krishna consciousness is about changing desires. But that goes together with, if our value, if we develop these values, means our desires are becoming Krishna conscious. So yes, now we have these three parts: knowledge, understanding, and values. We need to evaluate them in the Bhakti Shastri students. It's not just writing an exam and knowledge, no. We have to evaluate these three levels: that knowledge, understanding, and application, and then the values and higher skills. Usually, we have three kinds of assessments in the Bhakti Shastra for assessing each of these levels. And the first level is assessing the memory and recall. Memory and recall means what you remember. Your memory, slokas, and all the knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. Mostly, this is called a closed book exam. Means no book, closed book. But just the students get questions and answers, usually short answer questions. Short answers. What are the 5 signs? Give 5 signs of victory of the Pandavas, which appear from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Simple. That they must answer yes, that Krishna was with Arjuna, and Krishna was the husband of the goddess of fortune, where Krishna is the goddess of fortune. It was fought at a holy place of pilgrimage. There was Hanuman on the chariot of Arjuna, and so on. That simple knowledge that knowledge means also verses, slokas. That you ask them to write slokas means you give them the first words in the Sanskrit, and you ask them to write the Sanskrit and the English, or in whatever language you assess it. That so that's knowledge. Closed book, no book, answering questions, short answer questions, straightforward knowledge. But then you have a second level that you must assess for each level. That's the understanding and application. Personal application, preaching application. You have seen here. That's the application, personal preaching, theological application. In that, and also the values and higher skills. Normally these two, the second understanding application, usually we do with an open book exam. Open book means they can use the book like the Bhagavad Gita, and they get questions that are about understanding of application, can be a certain situation, like an example of application. Reaching application is you meet a devotee, and the devotee has come in contact with Krishna consciousness, and is married, he has 2 children, is new to Krishna consciousness, and is thinking about leaving his family and joining the Brahmachari ashram. What would you advise him? That's a question that about preaching application. And personal application. In Bhagavad Gita 2:26-63, 8 phases, 8 aspects of the process of fall down are explained. And how does that apply to your life? That please explain that. How did you fall in this trap, and what are you going to do about it? So that is personal application. That. So you give them questions like this, and you ask them to write like 2 paragraphs for each question, and they get 6 of these questions, and you give them 90 minutes to answer them, and they can use the book. That's understanding application. And understanding you can ask what that there are 4 yoga systems explained in Bhagavad Gita: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Please explain why Bhakti Yoga is supreme. That's understanding. And the 3rd way of assessment is the values and higher skills. Mostly we assess that these values and higher skills, we assess that to essay writing. But essay writing, you must explain your students how to write an essay. You have an introduction in which you explain in which one explains the crucial question you are going to answer in your essay. That can be given. We can give them a question to answer or a problem to discuss. In the introduction, they must explain 2 things. What's the crucial question you are going to answer? And the second thing is what method will you use to answer this? And then they must explain in a few paragraphs, they must explain how they gradually come to this conclusion. There must be a flow of thought going to the essay. And each paragraph should be 1 thought which is discussed with at least 3 subpoints of each. That's a methodology of essay writing. And at the end of the essay, there is a conclusion. One must come to the conclusion, answering the questions which one has posed in the first introductory paragraph. This is a crucial question. And this is the problem we are going to address. In the conclusion, they write, oh, this is now the answer of the problem. We have shown it through the previous middle part. So that's essay writing, values and higher skills. Understanding and application can also be assessed through essay writing or closed book. Good. So we have here these three kinds of assessment. So closed book, open book, and here we have for the values, the essay writing. So there's 9 assessment groups, they call it. Anyway, it's a way of teaching. But now these objectives, they are important here. That these objectives, 12 objectives. I think before here we have them listed also. I think. Because usually we use abbreviations for it. Then we will come to that. But these are this, because if they write an essay, you can ask them. Usually we ask them to write essays on personal application, preaching application, understanding, and we will assess this particular, this particular aim. But in order for us as teachers to assess this aim, you must know what is expected for to attain this aim. Students must attain this aim by following all these points made here. So this is very important. This is in the student handbook. It's not the Bhakti Shastri student's handbook. I will share these documents with you later. So first is knowledge. So students should be able to recall and repeat important verses, facts, concepts, analogies, philosophical points, etc. Usually when one teaches Bhakti Shastri, we ask the students please keep a folio, keep a little notebook with different sections and you tell them to write down all the analogies they come across and the main philosophical points and try to understand which points are discussed at what place in the scripture. Like what's helpful is, for Bhagavad Gita, usually I present first the summary of the section we are going through. I make my own PowerPoints and I present an overview. Like for Sisa Upanishad, I will present an overview of the purport what Prabhupada gives in each, the main points he makes in each of the paragraphs. But also it's important, like when you teach Bhagavad Gita, that you show them the first, that you can give an overview of the chapter. And now one point comes from another, and which point is going about Sankhya, like in the second chapter. And then there's a section about Karma Kanda, and Krishna rejects Karma Kanda, and then starts to speak about the principle of renunciation. That's so this, but this you find also in the materials. These overviews are there, and you can use them. Or you make your own overviews, because every overview will be different. It's not that a standard overview is of sections. You can divide the chapters in different sections many times. But there are study guides like Boyjan Surrender Unto Me. He makes all these overviews, and it's very helpful that that it's important that students, when you teach, like, let's say, the third chapter, that third chapter, Arjuna asks, to fight and not to fight, renounce or fight, that's the beginning. Then Krishna speaks about, after the start, to speak about the principle of karma yoga, Sagnarta Karmano Yatra, and then he presents different kinds of sacrifices for different people, and then he says, that, and then he comes finally to explaining how to act as a spirit soul in 330, without acting, without any sense of proprietorship. Acting without thinking myself the enjoyer. This is Krishna's position. And then Krishna explained in 334, because there are paripantina, to act as a spirit soul, to act as not thinking yourself the proprietor, or no sense of enjoyment. Yeah, that's only possible when one overcomes two obstacles, raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. And then Arjuna says, no, I cannot do that. That there is a force greater than me. But this is force which forces me to act according to this attraction and aversion. Then Krishna says lust, and Krishna says lust covers your intelligence. Then Krishna speaks about lust and how to conquer lust. And first he explains the principles of karma yoga before, how to act as a spirit soul, how to overcome the obstacles, and then the greatest enemy, what prevents us, is lust, and then how to conquer lust till the end of the chapter. Anyway, it's a question to give the students the ability for themselves to explain what is in a certain chapter. Because many times, those who follow the Bhakti Shastri, they know here and there some verses, but what the chapters really are about it and what's the flow, they forget. And that's not good. And then there is understanding. Explain the content of the scripture in their own words. That's important, yes. Relate the context of scripture to their own experience. What does it mean in my life? That's very important. Explaining the students, they should always think what is there for me. How can I apply that in my life? Relate and compare between various books, chapters, concept, philosophical points, local stories, analogies. Yeah. Explain the implication of any concept, principle of its application. That, yeah. Suppose of fall down, what are the consequences of attachment? That understanding this. Explain by using scripture the cause of various phenomena. Yeah, that's the whole this material world, that and how the bodies come about and so on. Synthesize various nuances of understanding and draw well-balanced conclusions. Yeah. Analyze, explain, resolve apparent contradictions. There are many so-called contradictions. And it was, especially in Shi's Upanishad, very puzzling. But there is all an explanation for the contradictions. Present answers logically and systematically. So that's understanding. So if they write an essay on a question that is going to test their understanding, then we have to mark them, assess them based on these points, not based on how it feels or no, that's important. And personal application, the same. Select material that is relevant to their personal lives and the situations they meet. Explain how the context of scripture applies to their own lives. That's important. Use scripture to identify one level of spiritual understanding and subsequently to select material that is relevant to them. Identify room for personal improvement based on the scriptures. Like from chapter 14, the mode of goodness. So, are you living in the mode of goodness? How are you going to introduce the mode of goodness in your life to cultivate it? So demonstrate a willingness to change his or her opinion, outlook, behavior on the basis of scripture. Yeah. Take into consideration a number of relevant verses. Identify and express doubts, express appropriate Vaishnava values. And these are all. And then preaching application. As important aspects to test. Can the student explain the principles of Bhagavad Gita? And that's because when they preach, it should be based on Shastra. Do they know the scriptural references that they can express in their own words, but it should be according to the Siddhanta. Present points suitable to the audience situation. That's so you don't tell newcomers that if you don't follow the four relative principles, you are an animal. We don't say this thing. That will not attract them to Krishna consciousness. Remain faithful to Shastric conclusions is very important. Present sound logical arguments, demonstrate the values worthy of a preacher, compassion, tact. demonstrate academic integrity. That's another point we will discuss later. And faith and conviction. Demonstrate faith in Shastra. Not so knowledge and faith. Knowledge support our faith. So demonstrates one's faith based on logical arguments, based on knowledge of the scripture. Describe all the practices and principles included in scripture work for them, and not simply for everyone else. So that's important. We will hear that according to our psychophysical nature in Bhagavad Gita, we need to announce in certain activities according to our nature. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to be satisfied, and then spiritual life becomes difficult. Demonstrate thoughtfulness and consider in their approach towards scripture. Yeah? Demonstrate understanding and realization of Shastra. Or explain how they applied it in their lives in God, and how it strengthened their faith. Honestly express doubts, that express their faith and conviction in their own words. And then authority. Demonstrate acceptance of the authority of the scriptures. Explain why reason and logic, the need to accept, with reason and logic, the need to accept Vedic authority. It's beyond the four defects. Explain why they personally accept Vedic authority. Yeah. Explain with reference to the scriptures the need for mood of open and honest inquiry. Reasonably express their doubts about scriptural statements. Appropriately deal with apparently contradictory and ambivalent statements. It's important. Yeah. We'll see that in Shir Upanishad, that we have that, and that's we are also in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is far away and nearby. So explain this. Examine and explore the context of scripture from a wide range of perspective. So give them the skill to look at scripture from different angles of view. Different angles of view. That angle of the liberated soul, Uttam Adhikari, angle of conditioned soul. That different angles, range of perspectives, and debate about it. And theological application, what does that mean? That so a range of moral, social, topical, personal, or theological issues that sometimes that comes to very sensitive, even controversial issues that that equality between man and woman, or why don't we want abortion? That or many other topics. Demonstrate how the Krishna conscious theology, often expressed in terms of Vedic social context, is relevant today and in a different cultural setting. That identify the principles and values behind Vedic and Vaishnava injunctions, Vedic and Vaishnava in the Vedic, principles of karma kanda in the Vedas, different from the Vaishnava injunctions. Why are they there, and so on. So present Krishna conscious principles, values, or conclusions in a way that is accessible to the intended audience. So that's not an easy thing. Like here in Radhadesh, I'm now discussing 10th canto, chapter 6. Lord Krishna teaches Queen Rukmini that and Rukmini replies to each point Krishna has made, that but she is speaking from the viewpoint of a Nityasiddha devotee, that sometimes you have in the audience new devotees. It's not easy. They cannot understand these higher principles yet. So you have to be very careful how to present things. Demonstrate an understanding of the topic, particularly through an ability to express in their own words. Present sound, logical arguments. Demonstrate the values worthy of a preacher, minister, and so on. Then evaluation. That's important. All this knowledge we want to apply in our life, in our daily decision making. We need to learn to evaluate. So determine the merits of any action or response to a particular situation. The merits, what good results will bring it about, or what problems will it cause. Demonstrate awareness of the need to consider the consequences of any action. Students have to learn, I'm going to do something. Will I do karma, vikarma, or akarma? Every moment we have to take that decision. That how can I avoid not acting in Krishna consciousness? Identify appropriate relevant scriptures reference. That sometimes they use scriptural references inappropriate, or misuse scripture even. So we have to be aware of that. Consider apparently conflicting references and to still draw a conclusion consistent with both. Yes, Prabhupada many times brings that point of the Vedic, it is a Vedic injunction that animal stool is impure. The Vedas say also that cow dung is pure. So I explain. So yes, draw a wide range of principles in order to determine an appropriate response to any given situation. Mostly, we put that in a kind of essay questions, which has to bring out in this answer, the student has to bring out their evaluation skills and what they have learned, how they will use scripture. There are many other points, but mood and mission, that's an important one. That So we have many times, many purposes of Srila Prabhupada where he speaks really about his mood and mission. That and students must learn to identify that this purpose or this, yeah. Mm-hmm. So evaluate Srila Prabhupada's conduct and his attitude towards practice in the light of traditional Gaudiya Vaishnava theology. Yeah, in the Vaishnava culture. Identify the main principles upon which Srila Prabhupada's mission is built and relate these to corresponding scriptural reference. The Prabhupada many times that our movement is authorized by the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. That so you are chanting. Why are you chanting? That where is that in Bhagavad Gita? Then yeah, Satatam Kirtayantamam Yatanta Satitapata. That they must learn to connect it with the mission, the verses. I'm Japa, Krishna says. That and Arjuna says in the 11th chapter, he prays to the universal form that he says, I think, well, and when they chant your holy name, everyone becomes joyful. Apply scripture to compare and contrast attitudes and behavior worthy of members of ISKCON with those which are inappropriate. Yeah, that's the identify, because the point is we are representatives of Prabhupada, and we are therefore, our conduct must be nice according to Vaishnava rules and etiquette and according to the scriptures. Identify how Srila Prabhupada's personal quality, how Srila Prabhupada's personal qualities relate to the scripture. So you have all these lists of those who have transcendent modes and those who liberated souls in Bhagavad Gita and the devotional qualities in the 12th chapter. How does it relate to Prabhupada? How does he exhibit these qualities? Determine the role that Srila Prabhupada's books plays in furthering his mission and in the lives of his followers. Then we come to this academic integrity. Recognize and identify use of scriptures which demonstrates a lack of academic integrity. Yeah. List and explain the common ways of misusing scripture. Yeah. Exercise academic integrity in the use and application of scriptures. Differentiate between the different categories of scriptural content. Yeah, that analyzing that responsibility for learning. Demonstrate heartfelt appreciation of scriptural verses, passages, scriptural study, relevance of the scripture to their own personal life, contribution that the Lord, the Parampara and Srila Prabhupada in his grant made towards their lives through scriptures. So then every student must come to that point of heartfelt appreciation, not artificial. Enthusiastically relate to the context of the scriptures to their personal lives. That so live with the scriptures and live the scriptures. Take that responsibility. I'm going to live according to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. And Bhagavad Gita. So, to demonstrate an ability to study by themselves, that's important. That to get them regularly, daily, read in a systematic way Prabhupada's books, that and get them take responsibility for that, take some time for reading, for study every day. Apply the skills modeled by the facilitator and demonstrate initiative in developing their own study methods. Yeah, their own study methods. And then 12, Shastra Shaksha, seeing to the scriptures. The student should recall and apply verses appropriate to situations in which they find themselves. So you have a problem in your life, which verses will help me to deal with this problem? That is Shastra section. Always think in terms of hope, what can help me in my life. Identify Krishna conscious verses, stories, etc. Demonstrate a correct Vaishnava attitude and perspectives towards situations. How to deal that. Demonstrate appreciation of how Krishna is working in and through the world. Yeah, seeing Krishna in everything. That Krishna is a super soul in everyone's heart, see him in everyone's heart, and so on. Appreciate the immanence of Krishna, how he's present with us in this world. Yeah. Identify Krishna conscious truths, principles, values in other philosophies and theologies. Yeah, I was fascinated when I became a devotee. I read the Bhagavad Gita and then I read again the New Testament, and I found so many points that are very similar, but in Christian theology are explained differently. Interesting. Identify the Krishna conscious truths, principles, values they perceive in the natural world. Yeah, especially in the Bhagavatam, we have the 24 goals in the 11th canto. That's how to learn these principles of life through nature. Identify explain their own realization of Shastra, relating it to their experience and demonstrating integrity of thought, word, feeling, and action. It means, Krishna says it in Bhagavad Gita, and I experienced it in that way, and I adapted my life according to these injunctions of the scriptures, and that's now the result I have. So that's, something they need to develop. So these are these 12 aims which are important. Knowledge, closed book, short questions, writing slokas, understanding application, preaching application, all the others practically. Closed book and essay writing. That this is a certain method used it, but I rather will not go into it. It may confuse you because I will show the system I've been using for many years, and that's more practical, because we'll see the practical things. That so yes, the assessment, we will speak about that later. So there's one more point I want to address today and this evening, and that is the Bhakti Shastri standards. Just a moment. Go to the Bhakti Shastri standards. See. Mm-hmm. Find them. Mm-hmm. No, it's not here. Okay, I have it here. No, no that. Thanks. Yeah. Now I will show you the Bhakti Shastri standards. So I've been for many years a member of the board for examination, ISKCON board for examination. And we developed these standards for awarding a Bhakti Shastri degree. And this one of the first versions, the last version you can get from the Bhakti Rupa Prabhu Ministry for Education. So standards for awarding the Bhakti Shastri degree. An ISKCON center can apply for recognition by the Board of Examinations as a Bhakti Shastri degree awarding center, provided the center certifies that it will conduct its program according to the following standards. The application must be accompanied by a description of the planned program together with the names of the teachers and administrators. Individual centers shall have their own admission policies and procedures for admitting a candidate for Bhakti Shastri degree. Such policies shall require at a minimum that all candidates meet the following requirements. First, the candidate must certify that she or he chants 16 rounds daily of japa daily and follows the four related principles. 2. The candidate must have been recommended by an ISKCON authority who knows the candidate well, certifying that the candidate is engaged favorably in preaching the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for at least the previous 12 months. So, must follow four related principles, chant Hare Krishna, and be engaged favorably in the mission for at least 12 months. This Bhakti Shastra is not for everyone. Not everyone is inclined to study that. It's meant for those who want to develop Brahminical qualities and will want to engage really in the preaching mission. Of course, it is also important. It's important for all devotees, but unfortunately not everyone is qualified to take up this Bhakti Shastri course. Because if they are not qualified, then it's better not to allow them. That I've seen it in the past that They must have a minimum responsibility for learning and abilities. So what are we trying to assess of the students? That first, knowledge and memorization of at least 45 verses found in the 4 Bhakti Shastri books. Knowledge and memorization. So that knowledge and memorization can be accessed through the closed book. But sometimes the memorization of the verses can also be assessed verbally. That's also possible. B. Knowledge, understanding, and application of the philosophy contained in the 4 Bhakti Shastri books. Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and Sri Upanishad. C. Personal behavior that reflects the principles and values found in the 4 Bhakti Shastri books. That they must behave as devotees. Course assessment, in order to ensure a basic minimum standard and at the same time allow a degree of flexibility, approved centers may establish their own assessment policies within the following boundaries. That's important to understand this. So we have the open book and the closed book and the Vaishnava behavior. Closed book can also be assessed. Open book questions assessing students' understanding, application, and values in respect to themes and context of the 4 Bhakti Shastri books, requiring either essay questions or else answers of at least several paragraphs. The sum of the minimum required words for the answers should be at least 7,500. So that means here, open book. This is the understanding, application, and values. That it's not assessing knowledge. That can be assessed by open book questions. Open book exam or essays or a combination of both. Mostly we have combination of both. We will see that more in a practical sense tomorrow. This is more the theoretical. Tomorrow we will see all the materials and we will get examples of all the questions, examples of answers written by students will be very practical tomorrow. And then the closed book, that is mostly testing the knowledge and recall, the answering of at least 75 short answer questions. 75. And I think here, these are, it's 275. These are 75. 45 questions for the Gita, 15 for Nectar of Devotion, 7 for Nectar of Instruction, 7 for Sri Upanishad. It's just a minimum. A minimum. Being able to recite from memory with proper pronunciation the original Sanskrit text and approximate English translation or in any other language, because it's not only English. That of at least 45 verses found in the 4 Bhakti Shastri books. At least 45 verses from the 4 books, slokas. And then personal Vaishnava behavior, including at least 75% attendance of classes. They must attend the classes for at least 75%. Punctuality, sadhana, extracurricular service, cooperative mood, and ability to function as a part of a team. The percentage marks required for passing rate will be at the discretion of the local center. That, but it's not mentioned here. But for each section, the minimum is 65%. 65%. Otherwise, they must redo their exam. They get a second chance. That there will not be any gradation within the Bhakti Shastri awards. So that means they get a Bhakti Shastri degree and the certificate. There is no mention on the certificate of honors or I honors or like this. Not there. But they can, local centers may, besides this official Bhakti Shastri certificate, which which recognized centers have to order at the Ministry for Education. Bhakti Rupa Prabhu is still doing that. But so that's the official certificate. But besides that, they can make their own certificate on a second one, on which they mention this high honors or whatever. But this will not be reflected on the certificates from the Board of Examination, so the official ones. The Board of Examination may assess each approved center's program to ascertain if the learning outcomes are being satisfactorily achieved. The board retains the right to discontinue certification should they determine that the program has been significantly deficient. Good. So I explained to you the aims of the Bhakti Shastri and the principles of evaluation, or what has to be evaluated, that with the 3 levels, the understanding, knowledge, and the second level. The second level is the application, patient application, personal application, and then you have the values, the integrity, the mode and mission, so many things that. And we looked at the 12 aims in detail, aims to be assessed and what it means. And we looked at the standards for assessment from the Board of Examination. So this was the introduction today. Any questions? No, everything was clear. That okay. Then we will continue tomorrow. That we will continue tomorrow, and tomorrow it will be more practical. We will look really at the materials, and it's a lot of materials. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna Maharaj.